I need lots of love. I deserve a strong foundation. I need to feel safe.
Navigating life is sometimes very difficult because we're often not given the tools that we need in our life to be successful. Hi, my name is Vicki Savini. I am a teacher who believes that childhood is simply too precious to ignore. On a day-to-day basis, I educate, enlighten, and empower children and adults to be their absolute best. I do this by creating strong foundations with children and by helping adults to repair and strengthen their foundation. Several years ago, when I was a first grade teacher, in my very first week of school, we had a fire drill. If you know anything about 5 and 6-year-olds, you probably know it's difficult, especially with a loud noise sounding off, to keep them quiet and calm. With my first experience in first grade, this was quite a challenge to get all of my 22 characters in order to go outside quietly. I was very embarrassed because my class was quite loud compared to the others. And as we stepped onto the field to get into our positions for safety, one little boy was screaming, "Mrs. Savini! Mrs. Savini!" Well, of course, I had just got my children to behave and be quiet, and so I turned and snapped at him, "Mickey, shh! You gotta be quiet for this!" No sooner did I take a second step, and little Mickey is screaming once again, "Mrs. Savini! Mrs. Savini!" I turned and gave him the teacher glare and said, "Mick, shh! It's a fire drill. We have to be quiet. Get in line." One more step, and what do you know? Mickey again. "Mrs. Savini!" By this point, I was incredibly agitated, and I turned and just gave him an evil look and shushed him right back into line. We walked back into the classroom shortly after the fire drill, and I was ready to read the children the riot act. I called them to the meeting place, and I started to tell them why it's so important for us to be quiet and all together for a fire drill because of safety. In the middle of one of my sentences, I noticed an awful smell. I stopped in the middle of that sentence, and I looked at the kids and said, "What is that awful smell?" Little Mickey, with a grin on his face, raised his hand and said, "I tried to tell you you were going to step in dog poop." As you can imagine, everyone in the classroom laughed, including myself. But a few moments later, I felt the tears well up in my eyes. And the tears welled up in my eyes because in that moment I was forever changed. I realized that I did not listen to one of my students. And I started to wonder how often it is that I'm not listening to them. I started to look at life differently and realize that our children are asking us all the time for a strong foundation in so many ways, but we're too busy to really see what they're asking for. At the whole lifespan, childhood really seems like a very insignificant period of time. It's short and it's brief, but the truth of the matter is, it is the most critical time period in our entire lives. Just for a moment, let's compare a human life to that of creating a building. When we create a building in our society, the foundation is the most important part. If that foundation is not laid in the proper way, with the proper tools, then that building is going to be a danger to society at some point in time. If you create that with a building, imagine what's going to happen with an adult. If my foundation as an adult was my childhood, and I didn't have a strong foundation, could it be that I would have difficulty navigating life? I imagine a world where children go to school and they're not only given pencils and paper or even computers to work with, where academics and curriculum isn't the only thing that we're teaching children. But I imagine a world where children go to school and learn the tools that they need to be successful in life. In my classroom, my children learn every day how to be successful in life. I teach them communication strategies and how to use I statements even at a young age. They do affirmations every day. And yes, mirror work is a part of our days. I have found by doing this that I help children to build a strong foundation for themselves. And if I can build a strong foundation in them today, I can only imagine the skyscraper they may turn into in the future. I have witnessed children who can't even look into a mirror and give themselves a simple compliment. I have also watched grown adults who can't come up with 5 things they love about themselves. Now, after giving them tools so that they can navigate life successfully, I have watched those same children and adults beam as they realize and embrace just how amazing they are. Childhood is simply too precious to ignore. Let's all become more mindful of this critical time period in our lives. I believe that you're worth it. And I also believe that the children in your homes or the children in your classrooms are definitely asking for you to help them to build a strong foundation. Go ahead and give them this chance at a very young age and give them the tools that they need to navigate life successfully. Nico, tell me one great thing about you.
I can do anything!